So in just over a week, there is a new Google phone, but with the industry in a really odd place. Should you wait for the Pixel 11 or should you get something else in the meantime? Well, let's work it out together. Come join the team though by hitting that subscribe button. I think is a good time and you'll hopefully get some nice content in the future all around made by Google. I'd love to have you. Cheers. So I will say in years gone by when we've done these kind of videos, it's been very, very easy to recommend that people wait for that next new shiny thing to just see what it brings to the table and what it will cost. Due to market forces though that are out of the control of everybody else and wholly driven by AI development and data center pricing models, if I can say that correctly, many tech products have actually seen price increases over the past year or so, and price increases on their initial offering. So you'll see things like games consoles, PC components, and smartphones are at the mercy of memory shortages and storage price hikes. The problem is that you're getting less now for your hard-earned dollar if it is at the RRP or the MSRP. To be clear, to help save costs, most new phones are actually coming with less RAM than last year, and the maximum allowance is obviously lower, or they will cost a lot more to purchase if you do want to upgrade the memory on board. This puts us in a really odd position this year, as it affects most mainstream tech products. There are improvements, but I do think the core experience will likely be diminished by virtue of these key components causing price increases. Luckily, there are still discounts floating around. However, those are much more modest than they probably have been in the previous years. You're likely not going to get a sub $700 Galaxy S26 Ultra anytime soon, but with trade-ins, you can sometimes get devices like Samsung's best phone at a palatable price point, but it's up to you whether you're willing to do the trade-ins. The Pixel 10, let's look back at that for a moment because I do think this is still a solid option and will remain a solid option for the average person. I think because of this, it might even be a better buy for many people than when the Pixel 11 does arrive, because it will get unveiled in a couple of weeks or in a week's time, I think, of this video going live. It's worth noting that this applies to almost every new smartphone set for release or already released during this RAM price fluctuation era. You might want to look back at the previous generation before looking forward if you do want to grab a bargain. So you probably know the deal by now as well. The Pixel 11 lineup is coming in those familiar flavors. We get the base model, 2 Pro phones of various sizes, and the Pixel 11 Pro Fold. There are some watches and potentially some other things. We're not sure at this stage, but yeah, it looks like that's going to be the case. I think when we look at the base model, this is a decent option. It's going to come with a telephoto lens. The Pro phones will have basically everything better than that base model, and the Pro Fold is a boxy foldable for the businessman or true power user, but with a lesser camera system on board. One upside though that doesn't quite account for the price increase is the bump up to 256 gigabytes of storage across the entire lineup on the base model, and this will be worth the wait, I can't deny that, but it does make us question why it took Google so long to implement when other brands ditched 128 gigabytes a long time ago on their base models. I don't think it justifies a price increase, nor does it detract from the downgrade to 12 gigabytes of RAM on the Pixel 11 Pro and Pro XL and the Pro Fold. This is down from 16 gigabytes of RAM. So yes, that is something to think about if you care about longevity and if you do want to pay to upgrade that option when it is available to you. We're not sure how this will affect some of the supposed local AI processing that has always been a reason for this specific figure being used on the previous generation of Pixel phones. Maybe more cloud processing is going to be used to account for this potential shortfall, but we're not sure at this stage. Just where does the Tensor G6 chip also fall in the chipset rankings? I think it's always the toughest and touchiest subject on any Pixel phone, at least when you compare it to other devices. You are at least getting, or at least guaranteed, a top-of-the-line processor if you do go from something from Samsung or another brand out there. It's getting harder and harder for Google to hide behind this AI and the potential Tensor processor being an AI chip if cloud processing is being required to handle the bulk of the phone functionality, and with less RAM on board, that probably does, or it could potentially be the case. Tensor G6 as a chip will be built on TSMC's 2nm fabrication process, so maybe we'll get some efficiency gains. It'll be the first smartphone to ship with a chip using this process, which is quite impressive, but a potentially downgraded GPU isn't a good look for this phone. At least there is a new modem, there's a new security chip, plus a little more potentially on top of that. The main thing is that the next generation Tensor chipset isn't going to set the industry alight, at least from what we know right now. This will be a major point of contention as the pre-release information points to a modest performance uplift. If it still ranks low in the performance charts, it is very tough for people to recommend an upgrade unless you're potentially the most ardent Pixel fan and I must have the latest version. And before we started to see major price increases basically everywhere, there's already been a number of solid discounts on the current generation of Pixel phones, namely the Pixel 10 series. The Pixel 10 itself is hovering around the $500 level and is almost constantly on sale now, while the Pixel 10a, although it was only released in May, is just a retread of the Pixel 9a. So I think if you can get that device under $350, the 9a for instance, when it's on sale, you're going to get a great package and you're not missing out too much if you're an A series fan. Google also confirmed to us that price increases will affect in-market Pixel phones in the coming months. So if there's a deal to be had, I would say go ahead and get the Pixel 10 or 10a when you see something within your budget range. As far as we can tell, any new features on the new models will be AI related, and there's no word on extra hardware, and Android 17 QPR1 is due very soon, which will arguably feel and run the same as any of the current generation on the Pixel 11 when it is available, and it will ship with that pre-installed. Throw in another 6 years of updates, and I think it's hard to really argue against anyone buying that late 2025 lineup. I mean, I think maybe if you want a real big discount, you could potentially look at the Pixel 9, but that might be stretching it a little bit. But the biggest question is, given we have a fair amount of details on what the Pixel 11 series is going to bring to the table on August 12th, and just how it's even less of a major bump than ever before, it is hard to recommend that you hold out until that device hits store shelves. That said, it's only a week away, and potentially there's going to be some ramifications there. But I think for the first time in a long time, you might get more value from previous generation of devices and from other manufacturers out there. Many of the newest smartphones are coming, as I say, with less RAM than their predecessors. There's a potential another price jump in future that is awaiting the Pixel lineup specifically. So that makes back-to-back price increases to the Pixel lineup this time around. With the phone unlikely to be as powerful as other phones on the market right now and phones in the future, it's going to be tough to convince people to upgrade unless there's a real cost-saving trading program or major incentives to help facilitate it. Barely any OEMs are trying to offer discounts or compete with each other right now either, because obviously price fluctuations are affecting everyone equally. Ordinarily, I would say that I don't think it hurts to wait a few weeks to see just what happens and when these devices start shipping. But I think for the first time in a while, if you need or want a new phone, go ahead and get the best deal that you see right now. There's no crystal ball, no precedent for this, for the way that tech prices are increasing, even on older hardware. As I say, there is potentially going to be a price increase for in-market Pixel phones. So that means the devices that are on sale right now, not just including the Pixel 11, which is coming later down the line. So it is wise to make the most sensible decision for your own financial situation. And I'd do that sooner rather than later. Let me know what you're going to do in the comment sections below. Yeah, ordinarily I will be telling you to wait for the Pixel 11, but if there is a deal available right now, snap it up. You don't know how long it's going to last. And I hate to be the person to tell you that, but that's just the way it is with the rate and state of the market and tech in general right now. Thanks for watching though, and as always, I'll speak to you later.